to walk the dog. He's hit, sack, fumble. Caught it, touchdown. And the ball comes flying out, fumbled. Prances into the end zone.
The Cowboys have their swagger back.
It's going to click, and when it clicked, I told you so. Now we're playing up to our standards.
Just in time for the hated Redskins.
A knockdown drag out when we play each other.
The Cowboys against the Redskins at their place on a Sunday in the fall, it doesn't get any better than that.
But Kirk Cousins and company are looking to knock the boys back down.
The quick slant to Jordan Reed for a Washington touchdown.
He presents a challenge for us, definitely. It's hard. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Two 500 teams in a pivotal division matchup.
Can't afford to make mistakes because they'll make us pay.
2, 3, and 3 teams need to go find a way to win.
Be aggressive, man. Take your shots. We're just going out there to try to get another one.
It's an NFC East showdown on Cowboys game day.
FedEx Field, Landover, Maryland. Oh, is that a lake or is that's a tarp on the field in Landover, Maryland? As one of the best rivalries in sports resumes today, just outside our nation's capital, it's the Cowboys, the Redskins, two teams fighting to keep pace with the first-place Eagles in the NFC East. And hello and welcome to Cowboys Game Day, the only live and local Cowboys TV pregame show. Bill Jones along with the Manster, Randy White. It's already been a good week for the Manster because he went out on the lake, and I asked him last week if he had been fishing lately. Well, he went fishing this week, and you caught a big one, too.
Well, I didn't just go fishing, Bill. I went catching, and I caught 2 big of those bull reds, and it was a fight. And they asked me after I caught the second one what I wanted to do. I said, let's go to the bank. I'm tired. It wore me out.
How much does that thing weigh?
That was about 35, 40-pounder.
Oh, the most impressive thing about that picture, you can tell that Randy White is still in shape where he could actually go play. And I know he'd love to go play against the Redskins today.
Oh, that Redskin rivalry, Bill. Like some of these young guys, I don't know that they realize, you know, what this is all about, but this game
Used
here
to play
was
for championships.
Oh, championships, who's going to the Super Bowl, who's going to first round of playoffs, bye, everything. So this is but it's a huge game, and the fans haven't forgot about it, so I'm sure the Cowboys are going to get that warm welcome from the Redskin fans.
Well, let's see what kind of warm welcome Keith Russell has gotten there at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. Hello, Keith.
Hey, Bill. Hey, Randy. Randy, you should have held up a guppy at the same time. That big fish you caught with a guppy in the same shot, because that's like comparing the Cowboys to the Redskins, in my opinion. It's not close. Even though the teams have the same record, they won't after today. Let me show you why I believe the Cowboys have a major shot to reel in their 4th win of the season. Photojournalist Bill Ellis, pan over if you can. Look at this. Randy, you could fish in this mess today. And it's going to rain hard during the game. It's going to rain hard as we approach the game. That's what it looks like right now. Now, talking to Zeke, I said, Zeke, it's going to be a mess on Sunday. He said, no big deal. I love that weather. All I have to do is put on longer cleats, I take off that visor, and feed me. Guys, that's what you call a shark in the water. Things are getting fishy here.
They are, and you can tell, you know, Keith's talking a big game there in front of an empty stadium. It's about to have some rabid Redskins fans there this afternoon. Cowboys and Redskins come into this game both with 3-3 records. Dallas coming off the lopsided 40-10 win over the Niners last week. Zeke running for 147 yards to go along with that 72-yard touchdown reception. Last win for the Redskins was 2 weeks ago by 2 points over those same Niners. Then last week, they lost by 10 at Philly. This a big game between two teams that know each other so well.
We know how good this Redskin team is. We definitely don't worry about records. I mean, obviously with ourselves. So we're not worried about that. This is an in-division team, in-division rivalry. We know what they're going to do. They know what we're going to do, and it's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, you love playing in these types of games. I mean, NFC East is what it's all about. Dallas and Washington.
We know them. They know us. You're playing each other twice a year, year after year, so there's a lot of history there.
They know your offense as well as you do. You know their defense as well as they do, and so it's always fun.
I think we can be assured it will not be a 40-10 final score this week. This should be a close game between two teams that usually play close games. But what about that Cowboys offense last week, Randy? They were hitting on all cylinders.
Yep, they were clicking last week. I mean, they're playing the 49ers, but that doesn't matter. The 49ers are a pro football team. But Bill, we talked about it earlier. I think this team's going to continue to improve. That running game's gotten better. I think that offensive line, the cohesiveness there, these guys are getting some time under their belt with each other, and they're finding themselves. They're getting their confidence level up, and I think this is what we hopefully are going to continue to see out of this offense and this running game with the Cowboys.
And any questions that anybody had about Zeke Elliott not being in shape or whatever, those have all been put to rest now after what you saw last week.
Well, and I've said all along, I said, as long as them offensive linemen block, Zeke is going to have some great days. And they're the guys up front that make it happen. He's a great runner, so it's kind of coming together for him in all areas of that offense.
So how much of it was the Cowboys? How much was it was the Niners?
Do what, Bill?
How much of it was the Cowboys? How much of it was the Niners being a winless team?
Well, the Niners aren't the best team in the league. We wish we could take them and put them in our pocket and take them along with us every week, but we can't do that. But, you know, they're a pro team, and I think the Cowboys are really improving. I think it's a lot more the Cowboys than it was the 49ers because they thumped them. Nobody else has thumped them. The 49ers have been very competitive, but Dallas just knocked them right out of the box.
All right, Keith, how about the play of Dak Prescott? This team now has 3 straight games in which they've scored 30 or more points.
You know what? I think Dak needs to be mentioned when we talk about MVP. All we're hearing about is Philly's Carson Wentz and all this Pennsylvania mess. Dak Prescott has 17 total touchdowns through 6 games. That's tied for the NFL lead with Carson Wentz. He has 14 touchdown passes already this year. He has at least 3 TD passes in the last 3 games. And he's only played 6 games, while Carson Wentz has played 7. Dak Prescott needs to be talked about as MVP. I'm disappointed. Everyone's putting Carson Wentz at the head of the class. Who was the best player last year? Who's still the best player? That would be Dak Prescott. That would be number 4. He's played lights out so far, fellas.
Well, and they'll have a chance to match up against Carson Wentz later in the season. But today it's the Redskins. And one of the big things, I think, Randy, for the Cowboys is what they've done in the red zone. They have been much more effective lately.
Well, they have been. And that's an area that they've always kind of struggled. And I think Dak in that red zone, and he's done a lot of that with his feet. He's done a lot of that with his feet, setting up with that option play. And I think that's opened up the running game, the passing game, and everything with the fact that he's able to do this right here. And, you know, that's important to get in that running game and get 6 and 7 and not get 3.
The problems that the Redskins present defensively. They've got 2 outside rushers in Ryan Kerrigan and Preston Smith who have proven they can get to the quarterback.
Well, yeah, they can get to the quarterback. They can pressure him. They're what, 6th or 7th in the league against the run, so that's a challenge. That's going to be something we can watch today to see how everybody matches up. So, you know, it's going to be a tough game, but Washington's not going to give it to us. We're going to have to go out there and earn us. We got this, you know, Carrington here. I mean, this he's been a heck of a player ever since he's been in the league. So we'll just see how it plays out.
And, of course, they got former Cowboy Terrell McClain in the interior on their defensive line. But everybody talking about Josh Norman. He's missed the last couple of games with a fractured rib. And, Keith, the Cowboys, I know, fully expect Josh Norman to play and match up against Dez Bryant today.
Bill and Randy, Josh Norman has been making a hard push to play in this game. He wants this to be his comeback week because he wants to line up opposite number 88. We know the way they do their business. All they do is chirp and chirp and chirp and chirp and chirp. And now, if I'm the Cowboys, I hope somebody has chirped into Dez's ear and says, Dez, don't get involved in that. That's his game. Play your game. Just make your 4 or 5 catches. Sometimes you might have to be a decoy because we know teams don't like to test Josh Norman. But don't do this all game. That's what he loves to do. And, Randy, I got a question for you. Dez said they're frenemies, talking about him and Josh Norman making those Samsung commercials. You ever have anybody back in your playing day that was a frenemy? You're either a friend or an enemy. You ever have a frenemy?
Keith, I have no idea what a frenemy is. And I never liked anybody I played against. For 60 minutes, I never liked anybody I played against. Sometimes I didn't even like my own guys when the game was going on. But when it was over with, you be friends. They got a good thing going with the television commercials. But I'm more worried about our offensive line blocking in our running game today than I am with Norman and Dez and what they're going to do.
All right, we're just getting started here on Cowboys Game Day. Coming up, watching Jeff Heath kick extra points was fun last week. But today, Life without Dan Bailey gets real. But first, time for our Frontier Communications trivia question. Kirk Cousins comes into today's game having completed 66% of his passes. That's second highest in NFL history. Who's the only quarterback ahead of Cousins? We have the answer after the break. Any particular Redskin that you would...
Take your choice. Jacoby, Russ Grimm, Mark May. Mark May was on the top of the list.
In our Frontier Communications trivia question, we told you Kirk Cousins has the second highest completion percentage in NFL history at 66%. Did you know the only quarterback ahead of him? Well, the answer, Drew Brees, 66.7%.
Jeff Heath is going to try the extra point. And his kick hits the right upright and bounces in. Attaboy, Jeff Heath.
And we play the percentage game in this segment of Cowboys Game Day. Bill Jones with Randy White here in the CBS 11 studios. We've got Keith Russell at FedEx Field, Landover, Maryland. 3:25 kickoff this afternoon, Cowboys and Redskins. And speaking of percentages, Dan Bailey up there amongst the best ever in the NFL with his field goal percentage. In fact, a perfect 100% this year, 7 for 7, also on extra points. Got a problem at kicker now because last week, of course, Bailey went down with the injury. First off, how about the way Jeff Heath performed, Randy?
Well, it was entertaining to watch Heath bounce the ball off the goalpost and go through. I mean, that was entertaining to watch, but we don't want to see that today because that's important. In our red zone game we just talked about, we may have to really improve it if our new kicker doesn't do the way Bailey did.
You need to score touchdowns if you don't have a reliable place kicker. Mike Nugent, the veteran, former second-round draft pick out of Ohio State, who was with Cincinnati last year. Keith is the new kicker signed this week. One big concern, he missed 5 extra points in his last 5 games that he played for Cincinnati last year.
That's what I was going to say, Bill. He missed 6 extra points total last year. So when Jeff Heath spoke to us this week, he said, finally, we have someone more qualified for the job. But is Mike Nugent more qualified for the job? I mean, Dan Bailey, one of the greatest kickers in NFL history, possibly a Hall of Famer when his playing days are done. Jeff Heath, 2 for 3 on extra points. Mike Nugent missed 6 last season. But no, I'm going to go with Mike Nugent. I think the guy has been around the NFL, and Randy, you can testify to this. Guys sometimes need a change in scenery to have a change in production, and hopefully that's the case for Nugent.
Well, I hope you're right, Keith, because he's definitely getting a change in scenery. Now, missing extra points cannot be part of his production. We got to make extra points, and we got to make some field goals from the 30 in or 40 in. We got to do that. So hopefully we're pulling for him.
All right, coming up next here on Cowboys Game Day, where were you 11 years ago today? We take you back in time to a monumental day in Cowboys history. Plus, Randy told us last week, pressure creates takeaways. Can they get to Kirk Cousins today? That's next on Cowboys Game Day.
It's time for the Nissan On the Road Report. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
Build good games on top of, games, and that's the main thing, and to win, and we got to get the ball back for the offense for them to get more opportunities to score.
The wet conditions, FedEx Field, Landover, Maryland. Tarp is on the field this morning. It's a 3:25 kickoff. It's the Cowboys and the Redskins, 2 teams at 3-3, 2.5 games back of the division-leading Eagles in the NFC East. And inside the CBS 11 studios, Bill Jones with the Manster Randy White as we're talking defense. And Randy just loves to talk defense. And last week, you'll recall, he talked about getting pressure on the quarterback, a rookie quarterback for the Niners. It seemed to work last week, Randy. A little bit different this week going up against a veteran in Kirk Cousins, but pressure creates takeaways, I discovered.
Well, it does, and yeah, you're right, Bill. Kirk Cousins is an excellent quarterback, so we got a challenge there, but I don't care who they are. If you get pressure on them, disrupt their timing, they're going to make mistakes, and if we can do that to Kirk Cousins today, he'll throw some bombs up there, and we'll get some takeaways, and if our offense, if we can get a lead and make Washington play catch-up, that's even better. Creates more turnovers because they have to take even more chances.
You know, DeMarcus Lawrence, who we heard just a moment ago, he now has 9.5 sacks on the season. He's second in the league in sacks, has one in every game, and he's really coming into his own this year.
He's doing a heck of a job. I mean, just think of that statistic. He's got 9 sacks already. I mean, that's amazing.
Just 6 games played, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, you know, if he can continue to do that, that's going to be a big plus for this team moving forward. And not only getting the sacks, but getting the sacks in the crucial times when they need to get the ball back.
Like
he
last
said.
week, right there at the end of the first half. That was a 20-3 game. If the Niners go in and score a touchdown, make it a 20-10 game at the half, then who knows what happens in that game. Cowboys win, but it's a lot closer down the stretch. The Redskins' offensive line, they've got injuries all across the offensive line. In fact, they signed 2 veteran offensive linemen yesterday to serve as backups today. I've never heard of that in this league.
No, I watched that game last week, and these guys are just getting beat up left and right. And, you know, but that's a sucker deal, Bill. Don't pay attention to it. If I'm a defensive lineman for the Cowboys, I don't care who they bring in. You still got to beat them. You still got to pressure the quarterback and go after him just like it was the starter, like every one of them was an all-pro. Don't get tied up in that backup thing. That's a trap.
Well, the Cowboys had their 2 starting linebackers in the game last week for the first time all season. It was Sean Lee and Anthony Hitchens. And when those 2 teams start together, this team has won 14 of its last 16 games.
And we know why, because, I mean, you get Sean Lee in there, you get 2 experienced guys, Hitchens in there, you got more confidence, you got a guy on the field that's like a coach that can, when something goes wrong, they correct it almost immediately. Now they're back making plays. He sets an example the way he plays the game, Sean Lee. So when you can get both those guys in there with their experience, that's a big plus for that defense.
All right, what concerns you the most about Kirk Cousins? He doesn't have necessarily the deep threat that he's had in the past in Deshaun Jackson, but what is it that concerns you the most?
Kirk Cousins is an excellent competitive football player, and he can make plays. He got a running back there that can catch the ball. He got 2, sometimes 3 tight ends in their offense, the way they attack you. And he can also beat you with his feet, too, just like our quarterback, just like Dak can. So Kirk Cousins is a total package, and you got to stay after him or he can make a big difference in winning football games.
And when you look at those 2 tight ends, you've got a couple of veterans there, Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis, by the way, has been playing very well lately. He's averaging nearly 20 yards a reception in this league. They will go vertical with their passing game to their tight ends, which means there's more time to get to the quarterback, too, because those takes time for those routes to develop.
Well, that's right. Vernon Davis is a Maryland guy, Bill.
There you go.
You know, he's doing a great job.
Language there.
I'm not going to root for him today at all, but he's a good football player. But no, Washington has got a good offense. The way they attack people, we have got to keep the pressure on them from the get-go, and don't let them up for air, because if we can, that Kirk Cousins, he can make a lot of things happen.
You know, the other thing that they've got, and you mentioned it a moment ago, throwing to the back out of the backfield, and Chris Thompson is a back who can break the long one, too. I mean, they can dump it off to him, and he can go the distance just like we saw Zeke do last week for the Cowboys.
Yeah, you got to keep your foot on these guys, because you let them up for just a second, they can turn it into 7 points, and they can put points on the board very quickly. So this offensive line decimation and all this stuff, I'm not paying one bit of attention to that. I said, we got to get after these Washington Redskins. They got a good offense and capable of doing a lot of good things if we let them.
They have struggled a little bit at the wide receiver position. They do have the former TCU Horned Frog Josh Doxson in his second year. He was a first-round draft pick last year and now appears to be healthy. And they're trying to get more out of Terrell Pryor. All right, coming up here on Cowboys Game Day, it's a pivotal division swing game, and Randy's got your game winner coming up next. But first, time for the State Farm Most Valuable Possession. Jason Witten has been the Cowboys' most valuable possession for 15 seasons. The 35-year-old continues to produce at a high level, defying Father Time.
On this day 11 years ago, the quarterback of the future became the QB of the present. Tony Romo was impressive in his first NFL start, throwing 3 touchdown passes in a 35-14 victory at Carolina. And Romo Mania was officially underway on October 29th, 2006. It's time for the Nissan Drive to Success. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
Here's a look at the NFC East standings, sponsored by Nissan. Ooh, that is ugly, Randy. The Philadelphia Eagles are 6-1.
That ain't pretty, Bill. That's not
it's real
pretty.
ugly. They're playing San Francisco this week. We might as well put 7-1 on there. And they're 2.5 games ahead of the Cowboys and the Redskins. That's pretty. The Giants are 1-6. They might win this week. They've got the bye. Final couple of minutes here of Cowboys game day. A look inside FedEx Field, Landover, Maryland, where it will get rowdy this afternoon. Might be a little wet this afternoon as well. That with the Cowboys' run game, they should have no problem in that regard. We got to wait on Randy's prediction, because Randy and I are sitting here wondering what in the world Keith has up his sleeve to close out the show. Keith, what do you got?
Bill, Randy, I'm going to tell you, this is as pretty as it gets for the Washington Redskins today. That's as pretty as it gets. All right, enough of that. Back to the Cowboys. Zeke Elliott has a big game. He knows he has to. He doesn't know how much longer he'll be on the field pending that hearing tomorrow in New York City. Cowboys have won their last 4 trips to FedEx Field. Another special delivery today, fellas.
All right, and here it is, much anticipated. We always wait for it. It's the weekly Randy White prediction on who wins this Cowboys game. So far this season, he's 3-3 on the season.
Cowboys win today.
Oh, my.
They're all
Cowboys
over Kirk
win.
Cousins' defense, our offense, the running game gets going, our defense gets a sack. Cowboys win. Going away in the Redskins.
You heard it here first. The Cowboys win today. All right, we've got the Chargers and the Patriots coming up at noon here on CBS 11. For Randy and Keith, I'm Bill, and we'll see you again next week right here on Cowboys Game Day.